Hello. It's hard to follow up with after what.
Brian Arbuthnot here.
Yeah, Brian Arbuthnot. Neen Brian Arbuthnot, WAGMATCOOK. Anyway, Don and Ryan and Carol really, I think, hit the nail on the head as far as the importance of Mi'kmaq schools. I'll just give you a bit of background about who I am. I'm the Director of Operations for WAGMATCOOK First Nation, and I grew up in Quebec, and I have supported and helped a number of First Nation communities go toward Aboriginal control of their education programs and their community schools. Started in Kahnawake back in 1978, and then went to northern Quebec and then came to Mi'kmaq territory back in 85. I was going to paint a picture for you back in 1985 of what it was like in WAGMATCOOK, and it was kind of a step back in I guess in history for me, because when you read about the history of First Nation education, you see the lack of money that's gone into the schooling, the lack of interest in supporting First Nation education, and really federal schools at the time were more or less fancy residential schools, but kids went to school and they still had problems in the federal schools. So the federal systems were not any better than the residential schools. In 1985. Students started the day by singing "O Canada," standing up and pledging allegiance to the Queen. And the Queen's picture was in the federal school. Today, our students go to school and we start with a smudging ceremony and we start with traditional prayers. We don't have a picture of the Queen in the school anymore. I think it's in the back of the school somewhere. In 1985, there's not one of me there. No. In 1985, it was primarily an English-based program. Mi'kmaq was forbidden to be spoken in the federal school. And that was a policy of the federal government back in 1985. That's a little bit astounding if you think about it, but we walked into a number of situations in the school where Mi'kmaq was forbidden to be spoken by the students. There were 2 Mi'kmaq TAs. There were no other Mi'kmaq teachers back in 1985. Today we have a very strong Mi'kmaq-based program. And in fact, the council passed a strategy to look at developing and implementing an immersion program from the Head Start right to grade 3 starting next year. So we're taking the preschool programs and then moving to primary 1 and 2 and then 3 eventually over the next 5 years. There was absolutely no Mi'kmaq history or cultural teachings in the school in 1985. It was forbidden. And I tell you that because I was there. You weren't allowed to teach Mi'kmaq history. Today we teach about Mi'kmaq history. We have courses through the support of the MK and through support from our own research in the community and the work that Eskazoni's done. We have viable Mi'kmaq history and language programs in our school, right from kindergarten to grade 12. In 1985, elders would come to the school, but they would be shuffled out fairly quickly. And today the elders are an active part of the school. They're actually teaching Mi'kmaq in the classroom. They're working with the youth. They're actually involved in a lot of our talking circles. We do a lot of resolution with students by having talking circles. But the elders are a key part of that. We have an elder center where we actually bus students down as part of their education to the elder center. And they work with the students to make Paqtnkek and other things and teach them crafts. And the young people teach the elders how to use computers. So we do a sharing of skills, but the elders are definitely an integral part of the school community today. In 1985, Indian Affairs managed the school from Amherst and Ottawa. And today the community manages the school from the band office, but it's primarily within the school. The school has the autonomy to run the program. 1985, our principal was non-native. She didn't speak the language today, and we've had a successive series of Mi'kmaq principals, but our principal is Mi'kmaq, speaks the language fluently, and is involved in our language program in the school actively. In fact, a lot of our teachers, even the non-native teachers, take language courses to be caught up in the language. In 1985, there was no parental involvement, and that's the key. I think Caroline mentioned that as well. Parental involvement is key to this. You have to get involved, and you have to challenge what is going on in schools. Whether your kids come to school here or whether they go to school off reserve, that's really a big thing, and there's no dishonor in asking that question. And today, the parents are involved in the school. Sometimes you get the call, so-and-so is acting up. You don't want to get those calls, but our parents are encouraged to come to the school and be a big participant in helping to shape what we do there. Excuse me. So I know the challenges that the community has, but I can only encourage you that education, once you get into the idea of developing a school and having it a school, even if you start with a K-6 school, you're not going to look back. In my experience working, and again, as an outsider looking in and helping support the development, once that transition takes place, you'll see a big positive transition for the community. It's hard sometimes, when you think about, okay, well, what do we have now? What is it that we like about what we have? How can we improve upon that? Is there something you can do with the province? But as the other speakers have said, it's difficult sometimes to make that transition because the Mi'kmaq do have jurisdiction over education, and Paqtnkek is no different. And I think, as I said, I think you'll see a lot of young people here. And if you're looking at elementary school, you got to look at the long term and where potentially controlling education will go. And I can invite all of you to come to WAGMATCOOK. If you want to do a tour of the school and see what's going on, you're more than welcome to come to the school to take a tour. And that invitation's there. I just talked to Chief Norman Bernard a little while ago. So if you want to come, let us know. We can arrange for a tour of the school. We have a high school on reserve. Who would ever believe that you'd have a high school? But we had a 90% dropout rate after grade 9 in 1985. 95%. Now, I think the numbers are a little bit different here, and they're probably a bit more stronger. But if you think going from a federal school, which was multi-graded, and going to a provincial school in 1985, and 95% of the students drop out after grade 9, after September rather, all that money was staying with the province. So the community said, well, we can do better than that, so we'll control it. And this is before MK. So WAGMATCOOK's been graduating high school graduates since 1988. And we have all of our band office now. Most of our staff are Mi'kmaq. Most of them have BBAs or bachelor's degrees, and they all came out of the high school system. And really, education, that's the beginning point of change in the community. When you have a school that creates employment, it creates jobs, long-term jobs. But the most important thing, as Carol Ann and the other speakers have said, is that you're able to look at helping to control what you teach your kids. Mi'kmaq language and culture is very, very important. Again, I'm a non-Mi'kmaq person, but I have a fairly good understanding when John's making fun of me at meetings. I know what he's saying about me. Eh? Oh, yeah. Eh, okay. Yeah. So, but again, as I said, it's a community decision. It's a tough decision to come to. But I guarantee if you do make the decision to go toward a school, you'll never look back. You'll say, geez, why did we do this before? And the nice thing about about addressing this, it's not a problem, but it's a developmental piece, is that you've got the MK behind you. Loretta and John have been involved with the MK almost from the very beginning, and they've got a huge resource for communities to help support and develop schools. And you've got other directors of education and school principals from the communities to help support any type of change that you want to do here. And Don and Carol Ann again pointed to the importance of Mi'kmaq language, and it's a struggle sometimes because we are talking about changing the way we look at curriculum, and I know Eskazoni's been really ahead of the pack for a number of years with their Mi'kmaq immersion programs, and the fact that Ryan is here, he's a product that's very important. So I applaud him for doing that. Anyway, that's it. I just wanted to say I'm pleased to be here, and I'm honored to support whatever you do, and I'll help whatever way I can.